Madam Clerk, it's 7 o'clock. We are in Council Chamber Special Council meeting, Public Planning meeting, Wednesday, December the 16th. Councillors, excuse me, please. We're trying to get going here. Sooner we start this, sooner we get out. Councillors, declarations of pecuniary interest, please. Seeing none, may I please have a motion to approve the agenda as has been circulated? Councillor Tom, thank you. Second, please. Councillor Curry, comments or questions on the agenda? Being none, all in favor? Contrary? That is carried. Thank you very much. We'll move into the planning applications. Welcome to Aurora's public planning meeting. The purpose of this public planning meeting is to inform the public and to obtain public input regarding a proposed draft plan of subdivision and proposed zoning bylaw amendments. No decision, let me repeat, no decision will be made on the applications tonight. For each planning application that is being heard, the following will be the process. Town staff will first outline the purpose of the planning application being considered. The applicant will then be given an opportunity to make a presentation and address any issues which have been raised either in the staff report or concerns which have already been filed. Following the presentation, members of the public will be invited to offer their comments or concerns down here at the podium. And then when we have a series of questions, I'll get either the staff or the proponent to answer those questions. When we finish with the public portion of the meeting, we close that off, and then we debate the issue at council, and that does not involve members of the public. Once we've heard from the members of the public, as I just explained, members of council will also have an opportunity to ask questions of the presenter. It should be noted that a comprehensive report will be prepared and presented to a future general committee meeting assessing the merits of the application before us and providing council with a recommendation for consideration. It's very important that the town receive correct names and addresses of individuals having an interest in the planning application. Therefore, if you plan to speak at council this evening, or if you wish to be notified of any further council or committee meetings concerning the application being considered, you must complete one of the green interested party forms that Samantha is going to hold up. And please return it to Samantha before you leave this evening. Under the Planning Act, the applicant or the residents have the right to appeal any decision of council on a planning application to the Ontario Municipal Board. But you must verbally express any comments or concerns here tonight or submit any comments or concerns in writing to the town prior to council adopting an amendment. The Ontario Municipal Board may dismiss all or part of an appeal made in respect of an application. This public meeting is being audio and video recorded. Your name, address, comments, and any other personal information are being recorded according to the Municipal Act and the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. This will help our clerk prepare accurate minutes. And a record will be created that's available to the general public, including the town's website. Questions about this collection should be directed to the town clerk, Town of Aurora. I will now ask the Deputy Clerk to confirm that notification to the public has occurred as required by the Planning Act. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With respect to item 1, application for zoning bylaw amendment, Nunzio Grossi, 7, 15, and 19 Cousins Drive, file number ZBA 2015-12. A notice of public planning meeting was published in the Auroran and Aurora Banner newspapers on November 26, 2015, and given by mail to all addressed property owners within a minimum of 120 meters of the subject lands. A notice of public planning meeting sign was also posted on the subject lands fronting on Cousins Drive. In regards to item 2, application for zoning bylaw amendment, Mattamy Aurora Limited, 1280 St. John's Side Road, file number ZBA 2015-14. On November 26, 2015, a notice of public planning was published in the Auroran and Aurora Banner newspapers and was given by mail to all addressed property owners within a minimum of 120 meters of the subject lands. A notice of public planning meeting sign was also posted on the subject lands fronting on Babbers Crescent. Lastly, with respect to item 3, applications for draft plan of subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment, 2352107 Ontario Inc., 1588 St. John's Side Road, files SUB-2015-02 and ZBA-2015-05. A notice of public planning meeting was published in the Auroran and Aurora Banner newspapers on November 26, 2015, and given by mail to all addressed property owners within a minimum of 120 meters of the subject lands. A notice of public planning meeting was also posted on the subject lands fronting Leslie Street and St. John's Side Road. Public planning meeting notification for all 3 items has been provided in accordance with the Planning Act.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I will now turn over to the Director of Planning and Development Services, Mr. Rumuno, to begin with the presentations. Mr. Rumuno, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The town's planner, Marty Rokos, will provide an overview of the first application, the zoning bylaw amendment application, and the owner and his planning consultant, Mr. Manette, are here, and he'll provide a presentation as well. Marty?
Mr. Mayor, this is an application for zoning bylaw amendment by Nunzio Grossi for 7, 15, and 19 Cousins Drive, and its file number is ZBA 2015-12. The property is located just on the east side of Yonge Street on Cousins Drive. It's in the red. It's 3 properties immediately adjacent to the commercial properties on the west. So as I said, it's 3 properties. It's 3 houses that are there right now. The applicant proposes to rezone the lands to allow the severance of basically going from 5 lots, so from 3 lots to 5 lots, to create 2 new houses for a total of 5. The 2 bungalows that are on the property, the 3 properties right now, would be demolished, and the existing 2-story house would be retained, and those 2 bungalows would be replaced with 4 new 2-story houses. The lot frontages of the new lots would range from 10.4 meters to 11.3 meters. The 10.4 meter one would be the existing house that's there now, and the 4 new lots would have a frontage of 11.3 meters. Each lot, or each house, would have a 2-car garage as well as a double-width driveway. So specifically with the zoning, what's being amended is the lot frontage, which is now a minimum of 15 meters, and that is being changed. That's being proposed to be changed to 10.4 meters. And the interior side yards, it goes by how tall the house is. For a 1-story house, it's 1.2 meters minimum, and for a 2-story house, it's 1.5. The proposal is to have the interior side yards be a minimum, minimum 1.2 meters for both 1- and 2-story houses. The lands are designated stable neighborhoods in the official plan, and the stable neighborhoods designation allows for single detached, semi-detached, and townhouse building forms, basically ground-related residential building forms. And it's, the designation is intended to protect from incompatible forms of development and to evolve and be enhanced over time in the area. Now, there is infill development that is permitted in the stable neighborhoods designation, and there are policies in the official plan that talk about compatibility with regard to scale and urban design of the area. And these are the official plan designations. The yellow is the stable neighborhoods. Immediately to the west in the blue is the Promenade General along Yonge Street. As I said, the zoning bylaw is a site-specific zoning bylaw application. And other than those 2 things that are being changed, all of the other R2 zone standards would apply and be complied with. And the zoning map shows where the R2 zones are and the commercial zone that's immediately on the west side. So this is what's being planned. The existing house is the one on the left side of the image, on the west side, and the 4 new proposed houses are the ones that are with the diagonal lines. You can see that they each have the double driveway. Cousins Drive is on the north side on the top, and the existing houses would be over on the across the street and on the east. Again, this is the existing house. This time it's on the right side. And the 4 new houses, these are concept elevations, not necessarily exactly what would get built, but concept elevations, and you can see the design of the houses. Staff have done a preliminary review of the application, and what we were looking at is conformity to official plan policies in the stable neighborhoods designation that I mentioned earlier. We'll be looking at the grading and drainage, and that'll be reviewed some more at the building permit stage if it gets to there. And the severance of the lands will be required If the bylaw passes, that there will have to be a severance application to the Committee of Adjustment to create the new lots. Now, in the report, it was mentioned that there were no public comments received at the time that the report was drafted. That was about 3 weeks ago. And since that time, I have received, by my last count, there were 46 letters from surrounding neighbors. I believe one of the residents will be reading out one of the letters for the committee tonight. Just to quickly summarize some of the comments that people have and the concerns, they include the lot frontage, the density, whether there would be enough parking, traffic concerns. It's been mentioned that there might be the potential for secondary apartments in the basements of the new houses. Some people didn't like the style and the massing of the houses in comparison to what's in the surrounding neighborhood. And the partially below-grade garages, which you can see in the elevations here, they're a bit below grade, and there's a reverse slope driveway to access those garages. That was brought up as a concern as well. Staff will continue to work with the applicants to finalize any outstanding technical matters, and this will be brought to council at a future date, and a comprehensive report with options and recommendations will be presented to council. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. Mr. Bennett, please.
And gentlemen, my name is Michael Manette, and I am the agent and planning consultant for the application. We have had the opportunity to review the comments. We certainly concur with all the information you've heard tonight, and reiterate that we are applying for a change in the zoning with respect to the frontages and with respect to the side yards. With respect to all other regulations, the application is in compliance with all of the other ones, which includes the lot size, the front yard, the rear yard, the floor areas, the lot coverages, and the heights. So it's important for council to understand that the houses we're proposing to build here comply with the zoning with respect to the built form. The height is within the height limits. The coverage respects the coverage maximums. I'd like to characterize this as a minor intensification and a reinvestment in the community. We're talking about putting new homes in place. They're compatible with and consistent with the existing house, which is currently immediately next to the gas station and next to Yonge Street. This is a block of properties that is immediately next to Yonge Street, and we would expect any modest intensification to be closer to Yonge Street as opposed to into the interior of the community. As I indicated, these are going to be modern homes. We expect that they will enhance the community and they'll bring new development into the community that is a positive benefit. We're talking about two-story homes. I did read many of the concerns of the neighbors in the letters received. We're talking about being compatible with one-story bungalows and one-and-a-half-story houses, but in fact the zoning provides for two-story homes, and we're complying with that nature of character of the neighborhood. So certainly a two-story home that fits in with the standards, in my view, would be compatible with the neighborhood. And in fact, this is the entrance to the community, as I indicated, close to Yonge Street. Where you would see a lot of redevelopment next to Yonge Street, especially next to commercial, you may have semi-detached or townhouse forms of development. This form of development is single-family detached, certainly is compatible with the built form within the community with respect to being single-detached homes. The frontages, although they are less than what the bylaw standard is, they are still considered, in my view, reasonable size frontages with respect to modern single-family lots for two-story homes. We're talking about 34-foot wide properties for a two-story house, which is, in many respects, larger than you see in a lot of redevelopment areas. The stable neighborhood, in my view, will be maintained and, in fact, enhanced through having reinvestment. That stabilizes the neighborhood. We're putting a single-family built form here as opposed to an intensification, which would be a different built form. And the residential house form, as I indicated, is a permitted use. The severances would happen following approval of the zoning bylaw, and that would be the next stage of the development to create the lots. I'm happy to answer any questions that may arise after you hear the presentation tonight, or any that you may have. But I think we provided a planning justification report which explains how we believe the application is consistent with the official plan policy. So I'll leave it at that, and hopefully after you hear the submissions, if you have any questions of us, we'd be happy to respond to those. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manette. So we now open it up to the public, and for those of you who haven't done this before, we invite you to come down to the microphone. We ask that you give your name and your address. You have 5 minutes. There is a timer. Samantha has a timer there. We do cut you off after 5 minutes. We try and go through once. You can come back a second time, but especially given the number of people here tonight, I suspect you're all for the first application. I do want to keep it to 5 minutes to give everybody an equal opportunity to have their say. So I would invite the first person up.
Good evening. My name is Susan Tucker, and I'm at 12 Royal Road. I'm immediately behind the first home that has been built on the lot that used to be Dick Illingworth. The letter that has been sent and signed by many people, we have, I think, 63 signatures on the letters, or not just signatures, but we have 63 letters that have gone in with signatures, or sorry, 41 letters with 63 signatures. And the official plan states that the infill development will be restricted in stable neighborhoods, and the proposed development of 5 quite huge, identical style structures. It is extensive, and the submission of the neighbors is that it will appear very separate from and in stark contrast to the other homes on the street, and that it is incompatible with a continuous unified streetscape. Although it's been said before, I'll just say the Town of Aurora zoning bylaw, section 11, shows the minimum required lot frontage in the R2 zone to be 15 meters. That's 41.21 feet. And the existing lots in the area conform to or exceed this lot width. And the proposed lots are only 10.46 to 11.31 meters. That's 34.3 feet to 37.1 feet. Basically, they are going to be the largest homes on the smallest lots. And as a group, they will overwhelm the surrounding homes. The neighbors feel it's going to set a negative precedent for the area and does, in fact, conflict with the basic objective to protect stable neighborhoods. Each proposed house of the 5 homes has a driveway of 16.3 feet, leaving a remained soft-scaped yard significantly less than the local properties. Aurora's bylaw, July 14th, section 5.6, requires front yards to have a minimum of 50% soft landscaping. And the residents on 3 sides, I guess that includes mine, will lose privacy due to the tall group of buildings and certainly due to the loss of trees that's already occurred. Dick Illingworth worked so hard to save trees on his lot when the Esso station was built, and in one foul swoop, half the roots off one of the largest trees was chopped and immediately died. And certainly from firsthand, since I was at the back of Dick Illingworth's lot, the foliage on the trees gave us complete privacy from one another, and there is none now. Construction at number 7 has taken around 2 years, and in the neighbor's view, has remained an eyesore, and the vehicles are continually parked on the front lawn, and there's a snow-fenced area in the vacant lot, but certainly they're on the front lawn of the house next door, constantly there. I don't think this is a neighborhood that complains a lot about, perceived zoning, bylaw zoning infractions, but it's just been constant, this parking on the grass.
1 minute, please, Ms. Tucker.
Pardon me?
1 minute, please.
I'm sorry. Oh, 1 minute left. I thought you were asking me to wait a minute. Okay, thanks. The construction has taken 2 years. In the neighbor's view, has been an eyesore with vehicles parked, and they just feel with 4 more to be repeated like that, it's going to be a problem for years to come. The side yard setbacks are less than the minimum required width by about 0.3 meters, and when multiplied by 10 side yards, this is significant and adds to the density of the proposed development. Coverage is very close to the maximum of 35%, 32.4 to 33.2, so it sets a dismal precedent.
Okay, Ms. Tucker, I would like to ask you to wrap up, and then you can come back the second time.
Thank
No
you.
problem there.
Okay,
Thank you
thanks.
very much. Don't be shy. Wait till you get to the microphone, please, sir, so we can make sure we hear you.
My name is Jean-Marc Nadlet. I live at 12 Cousin Drive, Mr. Mayor. These are photographs of the existing lot, vacant lot that is being left, basically unattended. Garbage piles.
Samantha, can you put this on the overhead,
Yeah, you
please?
could put that up there if you would like to. I would like that. And talking about some of the parking on the grass. I've been in that area for a little while now, and I'm not too sure if you're going to be seeing that quite nicely. Again, this vacant lot, the trees are gone, the mature trees are gone, so therefore what the individual from before me said, that privacy is gone. We have basically 2.5-story homes, okay? That's what it is, because they cave it in. Okay, that's not what is the standard of this street. I'm not going to specify about any bylaws, but from what I understand from the local residents, and I am a local resident, that this exceeds the complete norm. One, there's usually bungalows on that street, quiet neighborhood, mature trees. This is not what we see here. Okay, we also feel that that there will be some strain on the utilities now because you basically putting 5 homes on 3 lots. So the sewage, water, electricity, all those utilities will be strained. The construction of the present home took almost 2 years, living in the dust and the mud. 12 Cousin is right across the road from where the construction is. So it is affecting us personally, okay? I see this construction to last for probably 6 to 7 years, okay? He's a single builder, and that's what he does, okay? So this is a stable neighborhood, as I said, and compared to the rest of the homes on that street, what we should do here is the plan being proposed, put the same picture of what's there now to do a comparison. That's what I recommend. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Can you put that picture back up, please? Hi, good evening. I just wanted to make a point, and I'm going to be very quick. So I actually did...
Whoa, please. I
Sorry.
need your name and address.
My name is Sandra Holst, and I live at 150 Gurnett Street.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm from Aurora. I love Aurora. I love the hamlet feel that old historic area has, and what is being built is not that feel. This picture, if you can see at the bottom and on the right-hand page, it was July 2015. Today, if you drove by this area, it's even worse. Unfortunately, I work a lot of hours, and I wasn't able to take a picture during the daytime to show the difference. It's gotten worse. The pile is actually larger. On top of the disturbance of the style of homes that don't match our beautiful hamlet, I'm very concerned about the traffic. Cousins Drive, there's no parking. 150 Gurnett, there's only parking on one side during April until November. So I fear we have a lot of young children, and we get a lot of fast cars going down that 150 Gurnett Street. I'm very concerned with building these homes and what will happen to our area on the 150 Gurnett Street and the look of our area, obviously. So on top of that, the parking is you cannot park on Cousins Drive, and Cousins in 150 Gurnett Street is restricted, and it will cause mayhem. It's like I said, that picture shows it all, and if I took today's picture, it's worse. Anyways, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Terry Miller. I live at 2 Cameron Avenue and would reside there with my wife, Marilyn. Mr. Mayor, members of council, ladies and gentlemen in the gallery, I've introduced myself, so I'll get the second paragraph. My wife and I, we strongly object to the proposal that has been submitted for all the reasons presented within the community letter that has been submitted to the town, but primarily for the reason that the application wants to undertake major infill within a stable neighborhood, contrary to the spirit of the town's official plan. This development would not be complementary to the existing neighborhood, and in its present form should be rejected. We also object to increasing the density in the immediate area of the subject lands with so many large structures placed in such a small space. Rather than enhance the neighborhood, it will more than likely detract from the appearance and the makeup of the area. As an aside, Marilyn and I previously lived in a new development north of here, north of the town hall, specifically Ostick Street, a few blocks up from the traffic circle, and have experienced a neighborhood with 27-foot lots, a street that was approved by a previous administration of this town at 39 inches too narrow, and hence took away half of the parking. Had a sidewalk on only one side of the street, and if you were on that side of the street, could only park one car, a compact model, in your driveway, because there's about this much room from the sidewalk to the garage door. With so many homes and driveways crammed in, there were very few parking spaces, and most times not enough to accommodate the residents, let alone their visitors. And we won't even mention the November to April parking situation in town. The homes were also too close to the street, and as a result, when Bayview Wellington laid out subsequent phases of their development north to St. John's Road, they had to redo their site plans and restake a whole subdivision for services and siting so as not to repeat the mistake the town allowed to happen in Ostick-Stuckley area. It wasn't fun, so Marilyn and I moved to Cameron, and we don't want to see it happen again. Now, this proposal is a slippery slope where our neighborhood may become another compacted zone, and the same mistakes could be allowed to happen all over again. Further, I do not have confidence that the developer, Mr. Grossi, will complete the proposed project in good faith and follow the rules. Cases in point, I think it was presumptuous of Mr. Grossi to build the new home at 7 Cousins so close to the western side yard, assuming that down the road he could come to the town and get whatever he wanted in terms of subdividing to retroactively include his presumption. This meeting was delayed by 3 weeks tonight because, yes, Mr. Grossi, I have no problem. I was the person that complained about the fact that the public notice was not there and the sign was not erected. When I complained to Marty, the sign appeared. The sign did not appear within readable distance of the curb, but was set back halfway back, half the distance of the existing bungalow and the new home. I had 20/15/20/20 vision that day. When I come home from the eye doctor, I couldn't read it from the street. Another complaint to the town, and the sign all of a sudden moved out. So in my opinion, I'm not making an insinuation, but I'm left with the feeling that there was a possible intent to deceive or simply sneak by that part of the process. However, and it is a large however, homes in our neighborhood and the nearby Wells Street neighborhood are being purchased, demolished, and replaced now as a regular occurrence. However, and it is a large however, those developers appear to be responsible developers and are creating new attractive homes within existing bounds of the official plan and zoning bylaws.
1 minute, please, Mr. Miller.
Yep. We do not believe for a moment that Mr. Grossi's proposal will do anything of the kind, when I said enhancing the neighborhood, but instead create an incongruent eyesore or blight on the streetscape. My wife and I recommend that the proposal be rejected, and at the very best, Mr. Grossi even out the frontage of the 3 lots into 3 evenly spaced lots total and erect only 2 additional homes, total of 3 with the existing, and build according to the rules as set forth in the official plan and bylaws.
Excuse me, please. Thank you.
Pardon me?
Well, they're cutting into your time.
12 seconds. I got it all in. Thank
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Let's keep the comments to a minimum, please. Next, please.
My name is Trevor Stevens. I live at 32 Royal Road. Matter of fact, I've lived there a lot longer than you people probably have lived in Aurora. My family moved over here 200 years ago, in 1799. Well, I live at 32 Royal Road. The house was built in 1952. My parents bought it in 1957. I bought it from them in 1978. I've lived here all my life since then. I've made major renovations to my home, put a second floor on it, but I made it compatible with the existing neighborhood and their homes. I did not want to stand out like an eyesore. In the last 5 years, there's been considerable destruction of the old post-World War II homes. And yes, they're going by the bylaws, okay? I grant you that. The letter I wrote says this: this irresponsible proposal to build 5 monster homes on Cousins Drive would only maximize the developer's profits, with no consideration to the negative impact on the neighborhood. These 5 cookie-cutter homes would not complement the existing various and unique post-World War II home styles around them. This proposal would set a precedent for other developers to do the same. The population density and road traffic would increase and destroy this tranquil neighborhood. The rear basement entrances will also allow future owners to sublet a basement apartment. This would further increase the population density and road traffic. The height of these proposed new 2-story homes is a problem. The windows at the proposed homes and their closer proximity to the rear property line would allow the new tenants to peer into the neighbor's property on Royal Road. The privacy of the neighbor's private gardens at Royal Road would be invaded. Leaving the existing homes on the original lots would also allow first-time buyers to purchase homes at more affordable prices. A lot of young people can't afford the homes that are built today. If this proposal is approved, this would be the beginning of the end of a community-minded, family-oriented, and peaceful neighborhood. These homes do not belong here. They belong in a new subdivision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Let's remind you, name and address, please.
Yeah, my name is Brian Peck. I'm at 35 Cousins Drive. This is my wife, Hendrika Peck. Yeah, do you have it there? Yeah, I do. Oh, okay. I'll try to be brief, and I apologize in advance if I echo or overlap with some of the comments already made tonight. However, I think it's important that the town realize the extent of the opposition to the proposed development on Cousins Drive. So I wanted to add my voice to the group tonight that is opposing that. If you walk or drive down Cousins Drive, you'll see that pretty much every house on the street is different and unique, which is part of the reason, it adds character to the neighborhood, but it's also part of the reason why a lot of the residents moved on to Cousins Drive. We were in Tamarack subdivision when we first moved to Aurora, and didn't particularly like the every fourth house being the same model or a variant on the same model. So we decided, made the conscious decision to move to the older part of Aurora because of that character of the street. The proposed layout of these houses, and you can see what's the rendering in the picture there. Now, it's not totally to scale. It was a PDF put together by one of the other residents on the street. But you can see just that by looking at that picture, I guess particularly this one looks a little clearer on the left, the 5 proposed houses on the right there, and they're just mirror images. Again, they're not exact replications. But you can just see how they stand out, how completely out of whack they are with the rest of the residences in the street. And they're largely bungalows and 1.5 stories. The notion that the new houses are really 2 stories is to me putting the best face on it. They're raised. The first floor is raised with a slight incline for the garages. So they're effectively 3-story houses. I mean, it's just I think it's kind of playing with the truth to suggest that they're typical 2-story houses, because they aren't. They're really just, the other thing is the design of them. They're largely cookie cutter copies with minor variants of the same design of house, based essentially on the one that's already there, which, depending who you talk to, is an eyesore, in as much, at least, not that it's not a well-built house, but at least as much as it's in contrast with the rest of the street. The other concern we have is the frontage. I mean, you have houses that have been built, largely most of them existing houses that were built on these houses, and to maintain that look and integrity for somewhere in the neighborhood of 75 years. The idea of compressing them down and putting as much structure as you can on these small lots, purely to maximize profits for the builder, I think compromises the integrity of Cousins Drive. And I think, as it was already mentioned here, I think allowing this type of development to go through is that slippery slope that we're now, we start to allow shrinkage of these lots, and I think it paves the way for similar or even more concentrated development proposals in the future, which will ultimately render Cousins less desirable, but also I think it's a disservice to the street, the neighborhood, and I guess Aurora as a whole. So in summary, I'd like to propose I'd like to kind of wrap up with the following and say that the proposed housing plan is clearly inappropriate and fundamentally wrong for this neighborhood. Both the house designs and particularly the lot sizes should be revisited and changed, with the lot sizes remaining as they have for the last 75 years. We're looking to the town of Aurora to do the right thing and focus on the wishes of the neighbors and the residents of that street that have lived there for many years, and do the right thing and focus on maintaining that street integrity and not bowing to the wishes of a builder who's primarily interested in maximizing profits on this development. And is there anything you want to say?
Well, I was concerned about the rent, the possibility of rent.
So,
Well, I don't know if I get
Quick,
my
that's
own
a quick-
5
quick,
minutes.
You can come back.
Okay, well, my concern is the basement is raised, so you could actually finish that basement. The walkouts out the back allow you access in and out, including the front, I believe, and I'm concerned it will become rental properties. I don't see why somebody wouldn't buy that and look, wow, what an opportunity. You see it on television all the time. I don't want that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Adrian Mason, 23 Cousins Drive. Can we put that last one up that she sent? So we are the house that in this picture would be right beside, so we're the small bungalow right beside where they're going to build. So we're that little house right there, tiny thing that you see on the screen with this monster beside me. So my worries are that he wants to change the side view for small bungalows, right? He wants to decrease his distance so we're closer together. We're already pretty close, and now we're going to shrink even smaller. We have a big water problem there. So between our houses, we have swales, and that's going to disappear. So we've already fixed the basement once, dug it out. So what's going to stop the water from him rechanging all the water in the way it flows in our yard? His backyards are already full in the spring by 2-3 inches of water that just slowly creeps into my yard. So that's the main thing. There's no parking, of course, and if they do rentals, his driveways won't be big enough, so they'll park on the street or on other people's street and screw them. But the main thing is privacy. We lose that because he's going to have this monster looking into my backyard. Second thing is, the town of Aurora just a few weeks ago was trying to heritage the area, just a block north of us. So now you're going to put these monster houses in, and lose the heritage of what Aurora is, a small town. This is still in the core of the old Aurora. It's not on the other side of Yonge, it's in the old core of Aurora. It's right on the borderline of your heritage thing that you were proposing just 3 weeks ago here. So I think that you should think of that. It is still core of Aurora. It's still old. It's an old community. It's a family community on this street. And I think these houses just don't fit. They're too cramped, too small, and they don't fit anything. Thank you.
No one else at this point?
Good evening, Council and Mayor. Good evening, members of the public. My name is Sharon Smythe. I'm at 14 Dunning Avenue. I've really appreciated the thoughts tonight. I have some thoughts of my own. If you look at the house, it's just newly been built on the bottom of Royal Road. It's a beautiful home. The builder did take consideration for the surrounding area, the neighbourhood trees and neighbours. It really fits in quite well. It's a large home, but it's set back. It's a very beautiful property. My concern is that if you go to the top of Royal Road, there are 3 properties that have been also purchased that are waiting to be built with. I'm assuming, possibly not, that there may also be permits going through for these properties, and we may be looking at this again on Royal Road, at the start of Royal Road. And also it can move over to the other streets in the area, which is very sad to see the ambience change so dramatically in our beautiful hometown that most of us spent a long time in. So I really appreciate your time this evening. Hopefully you do the right thing. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Smythe. Anyone else at this point? Okay, I'm Mr. Minette. Can I ask you to comment the issues conformity with the neighborhood, privacy, traffic, parking, time to construct, I think is an issue that we've heard before. Second suites and drainage.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. With respect to the character of the homes, these are single-family homes intended for single families. Having a rear access to a basement does not immediately determine that there's going to be a second unit, and in fact, that's certainly not intended. It would be an access for personal amenity space for the people in those particular homes, whether it be to a patio or just an outdoor amenity area. With respect to parking, the proposed individual homes would have inside garages and driveways to accommodate their personal parking and parking for their visitors. Certainly, the double garage and the double driveway would accommodate that, so that it would be unlikely at least on a regular, normal basis, that there would be any visitor parking that would spill out onto the streets, any more than there would be in any other single-family home in the neighborhood. And in this case, because there's the provision for the cars in the garage and on the driveway, certainly the needs of the immediate residents in those houses should be accommodated. With respect to loss of privacy, as I indicated, the rear yard setbacks are maintained and the height of the buildings are maintained with respect to the bylaw. So it would be the same as an as-of-right house that would have the proper setbacks. So the houses would be no closer to the rear properties than any other house would be with respect to complying with the bylaw. With respect to calling these monster homes, as I indicated, they do comply with the coverage, the height, and the nature of the homes are not what I would consider to be monster homes, which I think it would be a common understanding of that term. With respect to drainage, the on-site grading and drainage for the houses, once the severances go through, would have to follow all of the rules and regulations for the town through the construction process, and all drainage would have to be maintained on-site. With respect to how that works. The swales would be designed to make sure that the drainage didn't flow off onto other adjacent properties, as I understand it, and that would be done through the engineering requirements at the time following the severance. With respect to just the idea of imposing new homes into an older area, I think the term of stability and compatibility are ones that provide for new development. That doesn't have to be the same as, but it has to be compatible with, and there's a difference. In dealing with new development, anytime you introduce new development to an older area, there's going to be a change, and we recognize that. The question is the house form appropriate? And these are single-family residential dwellings as opposed to a different built form. And the different built form, as I indicated earlier, would be the form of an apartment or a townhouse or a semi-detached building, which would be a different house form. These are still planned as single-family detached residential dwellings. So I just wanted to point those out in response to some of the general concerns. Following tonight's meeting, we will take into account all the comments received. We will be having discussions with staff as the agency comments come in and we address those concerns. And then once staff does their report, we would be making a presentation to you at the council meeting when you actually are considering the application. And we will see how we can address some of these concerns. And there may be a need to change some of the plans with respect to accommodating some of the concerns, and we will certainly look into that.
Mr. Manick, before you go, could you please speak to the time to construct? Because I know that I've been by the house that's there right now, and it seems to have taken a lot longer than one would expect.
Well, with respect to past history, I can't speak to that. I can speak to the standard process if we have a severance that creates 4 new lots with 4 new homes. The expectation is they would be built more or less at the same time by the developer developing it as a small development. So, in fact, rather than multiplying the time frame for the existing house that was built by 4, I think you could consolidate that into development occurring more or less at the same time, assuming that those houses are sold on the basis of the 4 lots going ahead at the same time. And that's the benefit of having it done as 4 lots together. So the expectation is, and I can't guarantee that, of course, but the expectation is they would be done at the same time because you would have the crews out there at the same time. It makes sense to do it that way.
Thank you, sir. I'll go back with a second opportunity for any members of the public who would like to come up. Jean-Marc?
Jean-Marc Landlet, 12 Cousin Drives. Not sure why we consider monster homes. The average homes in the neighborhood, at the present neighborhood, is between 1,200 and 1,600 square feet. 1 bungalow, 1.5-story homes. If anybody look at the plan proposed, 3,700 square feet. They don't call that a monster home. It's twice the size of the houses on the street. Talking about basement apartments, parking. I live across the street from where the construction will happen. Okay? The time it requires this individual to build a home is 2 years. He's by himself. He pours the concrete from one home. He may pour concrete for all 4 homes at one time, but it will take 4 to 6 years to finish that project. I will not live in the dust for 4 to 6 years. Okay? So, Councillor, Mayor, please listen to the people of Cousin Drive and Royal. Thank you.
Anyone else, please?
Shan Smythe, 14 Dunning Avenue. They're not character homes. Why did they keep it 3 lots and make a character home, like the homes on Welsh Street? They're all character homes, unique, they're all different. Developers were very considerate. This is an eyesore. And it obviously devalues the property of the people that don't want to live in the dust for 4 or 5 years. So they're going to lose value, or they're going to get so tired of living in it, they're going to want to sell their home, and the builder's going to buy their home, and pop, up comes another one of these monster eyesores. And that's going to happen all through the neighbourhood if the council doesn't do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, please? Ms. Tucker?
Yes, Susan Tucker, 12 Royal Road. With respect to the comments made by on behalf of the developer that they are not townhouses, that they're in keeping with the single-family homes, it certainly is the proposed reduced frontage, I think, does open the door for other things. I personally have been called by somebody who wanted to buy my lot and tried to talk me into, putting townhouses there. So certainly, I think that just precedent is being set for that kind of thing, and I think it's just the end of the neighborhood if this occurs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tucker.
Terry Miller to Cameron. I got most of my comments in before, but I just wanted to underscore some of the other comments that were made about a very good example is the construction at the east end of Royal Road, where an existing home was taken, and I've made it a personal, my wife and I have made it a personal project to drive by it every few days and observe how it's come along. It's come along very nicely, but the most impressive thing, and I would urge all of you, all of the councillors, to drive by, instead of drive by Cousins and see what we're living with, but drive down the other end of Royal Road and see an example. See an example of how you can take an existing property and work wonders with it and make it look, if you didn't know it was being constructed right now, you would probably, by next spring, think that it had been part of the neighborhood for the last 5-8 years, because it hasn't been an eyesore, it isn't obtrusive now, and the trees have been saved, and it fits in, and it is a prime example of how it can be done. Similarly, Wells, which I alluded to in my comments, there's been homes on Wells, but they fit in and they just don't stand out like a sore thumb. And one thing that I also, when I referred to Wells, I know, and I forgot to say, we are part of Old Town, and I know that it has been, our area has been designated within the bounds. At least we were told that when we purchased there 10 years ago, and other things that have come up, that we are within the bounds of Old Town. And I just don't think, I've given my reasons, but I just want to underscore that I don't think that the development in its present form, and I did close off my comments with that you can't, as much as the comments here tonight, people are concerned, and as I am too, and my wife is concerned, but you can't stop change. We're adult and mature enough to know you can't stop change. It goes on and on, but the change has to be, as much as possible, congruent with the surroundings and to fit and blend. And that's the main point in my speaking twice tonight for a total of 8 minutes. Just want to really ask council to really take that into consideration when you're deliberating on this issue. And maybe you, as the council, can reach some kind of a compromise that would be more appealing to the people and the residents, but try and stop the harsh impact of this proposal on all of us as it stands right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Anyone else? Mr. Minette, I don't know if you have any further comments at this point? Thank you. So if there's no more members of the public who wish to speak at this point, I will now ask members of council if they have comments on the presentation, either for Mr. Rokos or... Yep. Yes, sir. You're quick on the draw, sir.
Jean-Marc Landry again. Is there a way that the town council can put a limit of the time it will take to build these homes? Not these things, not these monster homes. A revised model, but can they put the time limit? Says, you know what, you've got 18 months to produce this document, to produce this. Not 60 months, not 48 months. Okay?
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I will now go to council. I've got Councilor Maracas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question for the proponent.
Mr. Minette?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. You mentioned in your statements that you feel that it does comply and that it does fit in with the standards. It obviously doesn't, because there is some zoning changes that are required to go ahead. But I guess my question to you is, why not 3 character homes? There's 3 lots, why not 3 homes?
Well, that's one of the things we're certainly going to take under advisement, having heard that. But I indicated why, in my opinion, the nature of the development we're proposing also fits in with the terms of the official plan policies. That's why we need to have the zoning bylaw amendment for the frontage and for the side yard setbacks. We are certainly going to be looking at the side yard setback at the east end, because that's next to the existing bungalow, because I think we can probably address that issue. And we're going to take into account what we heard tonight as well with respect to the designs perhaps. But with respect to the character of the existing neighborhood, where the majority or a large portion are bungalows and 1.5-story buildings, the bylaw provides for 2-story buildings. So when you're comparing what's there now, you can't just say what's there now is going to remain forever, because as of right, each of those properties could be redeveloped with a 2-story building. And the character is provided for not just the existing, but what is permitted in the future as well under the current official plan policies and the zoning bylaw. So a 2-story home certainly, in my view, would be in character with the neighborhood based on what's permitted. With respect to the number of houses, certainly that's something we're hearing very loud and clear. We have to look at that. But in my opinion, this type of infill next to Yonge Street is appropriate from a planning point of view. And we'll certainly address those comments in more detail when we come back for the council meeting and perhaps for a written submission.
Councilor?
Thank you. As a follow-up, I guess I wasn't clear on the answer. I'm just wondering.
Excuse me, please.
Why, through you, Mr. Chair, why wasn't there a proposal brought forward just for 3 lots? Or, I mean, my understanding is if it was just 3 lots, it would fit within the existing zoning requirements. We wouldn't even need to be here right now.
That's correct. And the fact that we are here is because the proposal is for more than that and requires a zoning bylaw amendment. So I can only tell you why we're here, and I think you already know that, because we're asking for more than what would be permitted as of right through just a building.
Thank you. And I don't mean to cut you off, but once again, I'm just wondering, do you have an answer as to why 3 houses were proposed? That's all I'm looking for,
Fair
Mr.
enough,
Chair.
but we don't want to get into a debate with the proponent.
No, fair enough. I guess I won't get an answer then. Thank you.
I've got Councillor Kim, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Ramuno.
At this point, it's just the proponent, if we
Okay,
could,
the proponent.
to the presentation. If you don't have anything, we will get to the report.
You know what, I'll save my thoughts for later
Thank you.
then.
Any other comments or questions for the proponent? Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, based on the size of the 3 combined lots put together, I personally wouldn't be opposed to a severance to allow for 4 total lots as opposed to 5 total lots. Just, I'll let you know where I stand right now. That makes sense to me. I think you can provide adequate setbacks from the other properties. So just as a point to consider from my point of view, that I think that would be beneficial. I think it would be beneficial for the residents here tonight if you moved in that direction. In terms of massing and scale of the building, has any other consideration, I know these are just preliminary sketches, have any considerations been given to a more historic feel to at least some of the new builds?
Well, having done many designs in heritage areas, certainly if you were building a 2-story residential dwelling, there can be a heritage design applied to that, if that is something that the town feels they would like to see. With respect to the cosmetic finish of the building, certainly we're not bound to those sketches as they're shown. Those are examples based on a standard 2-story house. If it's in a heritage district, usually those are requirements to an urban design guideline. My understanding is that's not in place here, but that's certainly something with respect to the design of the buildings and the cosmetic look of those buildings. Certainly that is something that can be looked at.
So just a little bit of background for you, sir. We did in fact look at a heritage conservation district close by. Ultimately, it was not moved forward by council because we did believe in residents having rights to do renovations and work as they saw fit. So that was the case then. If there's anything you can do to maintain a historical feel to these builds, again, I think it would be greatly appreciated by myself and many of the residents in the room.
Okay, and just further to that, in driving around this neighborhood, and I have done that, and I've walked around, and I have air photos of it as well, there is a diverse character of housing styles, housing sizes, lot sizes to a certain extent, and the filling of the sites with different types of accessory uses, landscaping, gardens, and things of that nature. There is no one consistent character trait, especially with respect to the architecture. So it's not something that we're looking at replicating an existing character, and to suggest that we're not interested in building bungalows. Because as of right, even under the zoning, a 2-story home is appropriate. So, but with respect to the design and the finishes on the building, that's certainly something that could be addressed.
I have Councillors Gartner, Kim, and Abel.
Thank you. One of my objections is the below-grade garage. Why were those included, and could that be a design change?
Well, we've heard that concern, and we'll certainly look into that. That was a design, and with respect, of course, to maximize the amount of space on the site, and that's not an unusual circumstance when you're doing a new building. Certainly, the existing house is already representative of that. Some people may or may not like that design, but it's not an unusual design with respect to infill development these days. And what we were doing is replicating that. So in fact, that is a streetscape that is created. And having heard your concern about that, we will be discussing that with the owner and determining whether that's something he wants to maintain. But that is something that is not unusual as far as new development in neighborhoods, as far as having your half below grade garage. And as I indicated, we're still within the height limits of the bylaw, the 10 meters.
Thank you. The height limits for a 2-story house.
Correct.
Councillor Kim, Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Manette, you just mentioned that the builder's not interested in building a bungalow. But given what you've heard tonight and some of the concerns in terms of these 4 2-story homes just kind of sticking out, has there been any thought for at least the most western facing home to be a bungalow, to at least make it more of a natural height increase as you go towards Yonge. Just, if anything, just to as a goodwill gesture to the residents, and so at least you have some. I know an issue was made about sunlight. At least there'd be some conformity with regards to at least the adjacent resident.
As I indicated earlier, the as-of-right development for that property is, of course, a two-story home. So the compatibility between a two-story home and a bungalow is accounted for by the existing zoning. And in my view as a planner, having worked in residential development, a two-story home next to a bungalow or next to a 1.5-story home is not an unusual circumstance and found in many locations. And the expectation is it would be more likely that the bungalow would be changing to a two-story home in the future than another form of development should it be redeveloped. So I don't believe that, as far as building bungalows, it's difficult for, I don't see too many developers building bungalows these days. That's just not, and especially when you're this close to Yonge Street, based on the provincial policy direction of intensification, especially next to Yonge Street, a two-story home certainly fits within that character.
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor, I can't argue with that. The zoning allows for two-story. However, in terms of, from a profit motivation, I don't see, from when I look at market reports, it seems like bungalows are going for just as much as two-story because there is a huge demand for bungalows as the, what do you call it, the empty nesters, or what are the, okay, that's not what I was looking for, but as those who are approaching their golden years, they want to live in a bungalow, and they don't want to climb stairs. So I don't think you'll have any problems marketing a bungalow. Those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I apologize for coming late, but I did review beforehand the material we got from all the residents, and I did hear some of the remarks. Well, what I would, when I hear you characterize that you're going to try and stay within the character of the neighborhood, we don't have underground, below-grade garages, and I know Councillor Gartner brought that up, but we've done a lot of building in our town, and we don't have below-grade garages, except for the one on Cousins that was already built. So my comment is I would think if it's staying in character that those would not be employed. I know I don't want to tell you how to build homes, but the impact might be softened with back splits or something creative and innovative so it doesn't seem so opposing. And those are basically my comments there.
Thank you. Any other comments for the proponent? Okay, I'll close that part off. Thank you very much, Mr. Burnett. Samantha, if you could put the resolution up on the screen, please. If someone would care to put that on the floor so we can get the discussion going. Councillor Perry, thank you very much. Second? Just looking for a second. Yep, at this point. Councillor Kim, thank you. Speakers, please. Councillor Perry.
I think the proponents heard the comments of the residents, the comments of the councillors. There are some changes that we expect to see. I'm happy to move this forward to a general committee meeting, and when we see those changes, make a decision then on whether or not we're going to proceed. For me, I think that's fair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Ramuno. Mr. Ramuno, could you provide a little background on the existing home that's been built on that site, whether or not it came before a planning meeting, whether or not exemptions were sought? I just want to understand how that one came to be.
Certainly. Through you, Mr. Mayor. The home, the existing home that was built a number of years ago by the applicant proceeded by way of a building permit to our building department. My understanding is the home complies with the existing zoning provisions, so he did not require permission from council.
Councillor?
And Mr. Ramuno, one of the suggestions put forward by a number of councillors is the reduction in the number of homes. If that was reduced by one, would it then be able to comply with the lot frontage as well as the minimum interior side yard, the exemptions that are being sought?
Mr. Middle?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. As we've heard, the existing zoning provision, or R2 zone, requires a minimum of 50-foot lots. So depending on what what he would reduce it to, if he's going to reduce it by one from 5 to 4, he may we'd have to take a look. He may still need an amendment to the zoning bylaw because the existing home would be under that 50-foot minimum. So likely, if he's reducing it to 4, he would need a zoning permission, change to the zoning provision.
Councillor?
Thank you. And going back to one of the earlier comments by one of the residents, they talked about the fact in the official plan, it speaks to that, you know, sort of infill development will be restricted within stable neighborhoods. Can you speak to that?
Mr. Middle?
Certainly, through you, Mr. Mayor. From an official plan standpoint, just for those who may not be familiar with it, but I mean the official plan is the sort of the blueprint for the municipality with respect to how the area is going to develop, what type of development. So the official plan identifies specific designations. In this case, we've heard it's a stable neighborhood designation, and the intent is to, you know, again, to protect the area from incompatible development. But one of the principles in the official plan, and it's clearly laid out, it identifies the type of permitted housing forms, and it clearly states detached housing forms and townhome forms are permitted as a right. Again, subject to ensuring that through a review, in this case of a zoning bylaw amendment, that it is compatible with existing and surrounding development. Again, that is a question of, you know, we've heard this before in this council chamber, definition of compatible, and it doesn't necessarily mean that the development has to be exactly alike to what's there, but it has to coexist and be in keeping with the character of the area. And what we mean by that is ensure that from a design massing standpoint, it is an appropriate type of built form for the area.
Councillor.
Thank you. And just finally, one of the last questions that was posed by a resident had to deal with trying to ensure that anything that's constructed on the site is done in a timely manner. Is there anything that the town can do to ensure that should something go forward, that it is done in a reasonable time frame?
Mr. Middle.
To you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, that's a difficult one. There are no guarantees. I know from a building standpoint, under the building code, once a building permit has been issued to an applicant, we don't really have a control over how long that development can take. So there are no guarantees, and it's a difficult one to monitor, whether construction could take 6 months or a year or even longer. That's always a difficult one. What I can say is the best thing we can do is between planning and our building department, is to work with an applicant to ensure that construction happens in a timely fashion.
Councillor.
You know, I think I share the concerns of those that have already spoken and those who came before council. And, you know, we certainly want to preserve our stable neighborhoods. We want to respect the tranquility and the peacefulness of it. And if there's an opportunity to work with the developer in addressing some of the issues, I think I'd like to see that continue in terms of the dialogue and see some changes coming forward.
Councillor Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, one of my questions was already answered with respect to the existing home in terms of any variances or anything like that were required. I did a little math. So Councillor Maracas alluded to this when he was asking questions. If 5 lots and 5 homes on those lots were going to be constructed under the current zoning, you'd need 75 meters of frontage to accommodate five lots. The current frontage is 55.7 meters. and that's a difference of 19.3 meters or 66 feet. So when you take it in as a whole, it's actually not insignificant. I just thought I'd point that out. So often when we look at the individual variance, it often seems smaller, but almost 20-meter difference if you were going to be complying, to me, seems quite large. It was mentioned by some councillors about the use of the underground parking. And if you look at the way the lots are structured, they basically just comply on everything else other than the frontage. And the reason that you'd have to have the garages underneath is because if you had them beside, like many of the houses you see in town, the lot coverage would be too high because the lots are smaller. So they have to be underneath, or else that wouldn't comply either. So that's why you have the form it is. It's not really an aesthetic thing. It's a necessity. If you're going to have 5 lots and you put the garage as an accessory to the house, the lot coverage would be too high. So I have huge concerns, mainly with that. The fact that we have, a per lot difference of, in some cases, 4 meters, in some cases almost 5. That's a big difference. I mean, we don't typically, it's hard to imagine sitting at a desk what a difference of 5 meters is, but if it's your neighbor, it is a big difference. And so those are my main concerns. We talked about some of the other issues with respect to the aesthetics of the house, and I hope that we can work with the proponent on that kind of thing. But to me, it just seems as if 5 lots where there's really space for 3, or if Councillor Peary alluded to 4, but even then you'd still need to come to council for a variance, because with 4 lots on 55.7 meters, if you divided it equally, it would be 13.9 meters. So you'd still need a variance of 1.1 meters per lot. So to me, it's just, there's a bit of a gulf, for my opinion on this, between the frontage that we require in our zoning bylaw and what's proposed. And, I don't know if it's right for the community to give that big of a variance on something that's so important to the neighborhoods.
Please, thank you. Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I had a similar experience like this in my parents' neighborhood where I lived for many years in Toronto proper. They live and still live in a bungalow that's probably about 70 years old now, and another developer came and wanted to build 2-story homes, and the residents defended their street and went up to the board. And actually, before that happened, the builder decided that it wasn't worth the decreasing amount of goodwill to go through that process. And 15 years later, those residents, including my father, actually regretted it, because that builder went about 3 blocks away, and that neighborhood is actually probably worth about 20-25% more than my parents' neighborhood and his street. Now that he's retired, he's not so concerned, because I'm essentially his RSP these days, but he does regret not allowing it. He had the same concerns. It's about his territory and his quality of life at the time. But that said, I heard one person say that in terms of the value of the properties doesn't matter. It's the first time I've heard that, because in most cases like this, the property values going down was a concern, or not going up as much as other neighborhoods. So I do, applaud your residents for that not being first priority, but just the quality of life. That said, as Councillor Perry put it, he wants this. He recommended that this go to GC for a decision, and just so that Mr. Manette understands, once it goes to General Council, unless the changes that are required and supported by Council, pretty well ends there in terms of municipal process. My hope is that Mr. Manette and the builder has heard the residents and some of the suggestions put out by Council, Myself personally, I think having a 41-foot frontage with that height, even though it's within the zoning, it's a little bit extreme. I would prefer at least one house taken out. I think Mr. Jean-Marc Delandre mentioned that it would take such a long time, and I have no doubts about it because I pass through that neighborhood once in a while, and I do see what's happened, and I would like Mr. Manette to confirm back if it comes to GC or the next planning meeting, in terms of a firm outline in terms of the duration of the plan, and just a step-by-step, just to reaffirm the residents and us that it's not going to take 3, 4, 5 years, because I'd hate to live in a neighborhood where there's constant building and dust, and especially if you have young children. So those are my comments, and I hope that if we do go to GC, General Counsel, I hope that the builder and Mr. Manette would take that away, because that would be the final opportunity. Thank you.
Councilor Marcus, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My mic's making a lot of noise tonight.
Sounds like my knees.
I mean, I agree with a lot of the comments around the table. If anyone knows me, I'm not too thrilled at, I don't mind being a little flexible with our official plan and our zoning bylaws. But when I look at this neighborhood, I've driven the area quite a bit. I drive by the house on the corner that they're building on Dunning every day, and I see it, the job that they're doing as I go to Tim Hortons, and I'm not on Dunning, sorry, on Royal. And the one on the corner there, and I feel like that's a responsible builder for the community. They're looking at the character of the community, and they're doing a good job to put something in that fits within the parameters and within our zoning, and you know what, and the residents like it. For me, I look at this plan, and I can't support anything but 3 for myself.
Councilor Tom, Councilor Marcus.
And I hope that the developer, listens to our concerns. I mean, could I be flexible and look at 4? Possibly, but I just don't think I could. I think 3 is what I'm looking for. I think something that can be built, that fits and has that look and that character that stands the test of time for the community. And I'd prefer to see this come back to another public planning meeting. But if it goes to general committee, I do hope that the developer does take all these into consideration, comes back with a plan that we can accept at that time. Otherwise, I wouldn't see it going forward at that time.
Councilor, other speakers, please. Councilor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The frontages at 3, Mr. Mayor, the frontage of the old lots are 15 meters, and the proponent is taking 3 times 1545, dividing it by 5. So we're looking at approximately 10 meters. 3, Mr. Mayor's.
Okay, hold on. All right. I appreciate that everyone's interested in this application, but this is council's time to speak, please. Thank you very much. Mr. Muno.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, the owner assembled 3 existing lots, and the 3 lots averaged about 18 meters, which is about 60 feet each. And so his proposal is to then create 5, and 4 of the lots would be 37 lot frontages, and in the lot where he's 7 Cousins, where he built his home a few years ago, that would have about a 34-foot frontage.
And so, Mr. Ramuno, and I'll refer to the 2 C-lands where they have 35, 40, 45-foot lots. And in those ones, say the 35-foot, they accommodate vehicles. I think we allow 1 garage, but would the 35-foot lots also have double garage? Mr. Bruno?
Through Mr. Mayor, yes, a double-car garage on a 35-foot lot is pretty commonplace, and the homes that are proposed here would have a double-car garage, accommodate 2 cars in the garage, and even up to 4 on the driveway.
So and the square footage that the applicant has put forward is, on these 35-foot lots, would be considerably larger than the ones that we see in the 2C developments. Would that be a fair comment?
Mr. Miller?
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Or can you comment?
Yeah, not necessarily. Again, our zoning bylaw doesn't regulate the actual amount of floor space. What governs it are the side yard, front yard, rear yard setbacks, and in these older neighborhoods, the 35% lot coverage.
And Mr. Ramuno, the homes that are right beside it, the bungalows, would they be built in 1950, Mike? Or are they older than that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't know for sure, but from what I've heard, probably even older. Yep.
Pre-war, pre-Second World War?
My understanding is some of them are probably built in the 40s.
So my comment is that in the 2C lands with the 35-foot, 45-foot lots, we don't have any underground subgrade garages. And the reason that is because the garages are built into the homes. So there's an effect of that. You lose your inside square footage of the house to accommodate that garage. So you would have your second floor above the garage. That's fairly standard here in Aurora. What the underground allows is that second story. So you increase your square footage of the house, which means you get a smaller lot, you get more homes, and the builder gets a bigger house square footage. Good. That's good building sense if you're going to look for a price. There's a lot that we're giving here. We're going to allow the smaller lot, and this is my comment. We're going to allow him to build a bigger house, bigger square footage, and he is going to maximize his investment in this case. And there are comments that it doesn't really fit in with the neighborhood. So that's why my comment is that underground, if we're going to give them smaller lots, then the mass of the houses shouldn't necessarily be so big and overwhelming. If he wants to build big homes, then he should build them on bigger lots. And so that's what I would like to see come forward when the applicant comes forward. If you're going to put 5 homes in there, then they should be sort of scaled down, and you can maximize your investment that way. And if you want to build the bigger homes with the big square footage, then you should have the lots. The idea that, and you see it in parts of Toronto, and even in Aurora, homes that were built, small bungalows, I call them post-war, on big lots, and they were prevalent on Finch Avenue, where I grew up, in Willowdale. They all now are very attractive because they can hold a much bigger home on that same lot. In some cases, the zoning allows them to make townhome complexes. So it's realistic to assume that small bungalows of 1,200 square feet on a 60-foot lot at some time are going to be an attractive investment for a bigger home and for a home for family down the road, and that makes sense to me. But in this case, I would like to see the impact less on the residents, and they've come out and they've made it very clear that this is maximizing floor space and maximizing the number of homes for the builder's advantage. And I don't think it fits in with the character. So I hope those comments are loud and clear. We want to see some concession back, either in lot sizes or on the massing of the homes. And that would be before committee next time if they want my support at council or general committee.
Thank you, Councillor Abel. Other speakers, Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks to all of the residents for coming out to allow us to know how you feel about this. I share many of your concerns, and with respect to a stable neighborhood, the quote was that the new development coexists and is in keeping with the design and massing of the neighborhood. To me, this in no way is in keeping with the design and massing of this neighborhood. And this is a neighborhood. In particular, as was mentioned, the front yard is basically a driveway. Very little room for landscaping and protective trees. At the end of the day, when we sit here, it's very hard for us because we do have an official plan, and there's been a lot of time spent making our official plan. But there is the wording in the official plan, and then there's also the intent. And I think the intent is not to have a builder come in and place something in a neighborhood that looks so completely different from what exists there already. And I know that there is one house closer to Yonge Street, but I think there needs to be a transition, as was mentioned by someone. There needs to be a transition from this very large house with this below-grade driveway to the bungalow that belongs to the couple sitting across from me. What is proposed here in no way is what I think of when I think of redevelopment in a stable neighborhood. And I know the developer has heard all of our comments, and I would prefer this to come back as well to a public planning meeting. I think this is too important an issue, not only because there are so many people that are sitting here, but because it does set precedent for all of the other stable neighborhoods that we have in our downtown core, whether it be historic or Old Town or just older Aurora. And I would like to see this come back to a public planning meeting so that we can work further to make sure that we have something that the residents and the community and council is satisfied with.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Council, my sense is that the majority of council would like to see this to come back to, with the exception of Councillor Perry, come back to a public planning meeting. Conformity obviously is a major issue. I think one issue that's been mentioned a couple of times but it has not been adequately addressed is the time to construct. I know that the one house that's there seems to have taken much longer than it should have. There's a couple of other areas in town, and I think that that's certainly an area that council should be concerned about. So I would suggest coming back to another public planning meeting if someone... Councillor Gardner. That's an amendment. It would have to be an amendment. Councillor Gardner? No, it's not contradictory. Councillor Gardner had the floor.
Thank you. I just, when this comes back to us, I would like this below-grade garage addressed, because it's true, we don't have a lot of this in Aurora, and it is one of the reasons that the structure appears so large, because it is more like a 2.5-story house because of this, the way this driveway and garage is placed. So I would like to make sure that is addressed.
Councillor Maracas?
I'll make that amendment. Maybe I should turn my mic before I turn it on.
Is there a second for the amendment, please? Councillor Gardner, thank you. Comments or questions on the amendment, which is to come back to a future public planning meeting, not a general committee meeting? All in favor then? Contrary? It's carried. Back to the main motion then as amended. If there's no further discussion, all in favor? Contrary? That is carried. Thank you. The issue will be coming back to a future public planning meeting. It will not be going to a general committee meeting. You will be, if you filled out the form, you will be advised when that meeting is. If you haven't filled out the form, Samantha is going to hold that up again for me, please, Samantha. Please fill one of those out before you leave. And we'll take just unless the rest of you are going to listen to the next two applications, we'll just take a quick break while people move out.